Sviki, labdien, salutations in various other languages. Welcome in or back to Seablock, belts only. Today is going to be great, because that main bus is going to arrive on time. Let's get to it. I begin, as usual, doing chores, though this time it is just a mirrored blueprint paste of the previous power generation setup. With it constructed, it'll be lovely and sweet 300 megawatts, with an additional 100 megawatts purely from the windmills. Owing to the previous video, this is somewhat of a time waste, but I still wanted to include it to show you how you can always make a build smaller, and as a potential blueprint, you can copy in case you want to have a little bit of belts only in your Seablock experience. I'm sure somebody in the Factorio forums or on their own has devised something similar or can potentially make this smaller, but that's the fun with Factorio as well. I know one of you will figure out efficiencies even better to consider. Though I think that'll only properly occur once Seablock reaches a 2.0 state. I already have plans, but all in due time. All in due time. I have plenty of mod packs to get to, that and theory crafting other challenge runs. It does ruffle me that I can't quite fully rely upon this, but such is life in Factorio. The game of spam and resource efficiency can only occur for so long, but it is beautiful. Wouldn't you agree? Now, whilst I do want to get to the starter base, I also want to show you this. This is the plan. Do I need this? No. However, it is ridiculously overbuilt, probably throughput limited, and a sign of ridiculous wealth and waste of time. As such, it is a perfect goal to reach. One of the things I failed to mention is that cliff explosives are expensive. Excavation charges, I leave as a question for you to figure out on your own. Let me check in on my circuit production from that I set up. Surely it has produced some manner of circuitry in the time I spent setting up the newer power generation. Oh, let's have a look and... Incredible. Truly incredible. 3 red circuits to my name. I am so glad I have these robots. I want you to know that me crashing into buildings is a common enough occurrence to warrant me having repair kits on hand. This is the belt of charcoal. About 60 or so charcoal per second, maybe more, just running about on a red belt, and despite what it may look like, this is not the main bus. This is a fuel bus. Very different things, very different things. Line up, weapons online, repeated belting offenses, reconstruction, deconstruction, reconstruction. This belt is really ridiculous. These heavy offshore pumps exist for the moment. They are also somewhat interesting since they create a water yield point to extra fluid out of, or rather extract fluid out of, which is interesting. However, as per previous statements, they suck balls. Unfortunately, no perfect consumption rate for cleaning out the used filters. To remind you, these are the rates, so a little math, as a treat. 37.5 divided by 1,170, so that is 31 advanced chemical plants. We shave that down to 30. And the only thing I care for right now is HSG. So 30 multiplied by 22.5, 675 HSG. It takes 67.5 HSG, so we divide that. It gives us 10 buildings. In this case, chemical plants, and 450 oxygen, and it'll give us 33.75 sulfur per second. This goes back into a liquefier, which makes 2,025 sulfur dioxide gas. That SGG goes into another chemical plant, and alongside purified water, it'll make 1,350 sulfuric acid, which in turn can feed 120 liquefiers. Those 120 liquefiers melt the slag from an electrolyzer stack, and we get 4,500 slag slurry. That's a lot, but what does it mean exactly, Fives? I follow, but give me a bone here. To keep it a little mathy, 900 slag slurry becomes mineral sludge in the same amount, so that's 4,500 mineral sludge. 900 mineral sludge is 36 ore of any type. So 45 is a multiple of 9, divide that by 9, we get 5. Multiply 36 by 5, and we get 180 ore per second. And to repeat myself, you have to remember to multiply the per second to minute and then hour. So 180 becomes 10,800 per minute, and then that becomes 648,000 per hour. And this is before we consider the recipes which boost overall smelting yield, so that ore, if my math is correct, which is a lot to ask, is doubled or perhaps tripled in terms of our gains. Can you smell that? That's the Bella progression, and she calls to all her worthy sailors. Anywho, the slight math madness, unprovoked and brain-teasing, simple paste and watch as the belts are fed. I underproduced the filters, mind you, so production is a bit scuffed, but we ball. You know the setup. Sulfur and oxygen, sulfur dioxide gas, that goes into a chemical plant, makes acid. It really is just that simple. Finally, excavating a hole large enough to thrust pumps into. The improvement is that I figured out that putting pumps closer would solve pressure issues because, distance. It, seems to have worked. At least I think it works, and I'm too lazy to check Factorio Friday facts because I'd rather keep bashing my head against the wall instead of solving it. I'm sure you know the basics of filtration at this point, so I'll not repeat myself for now. Whatever shall I do with all these washing plants? Also, I direct your attention to the playtime counter. The 300-hour mark is reached. I predict purple science is happening somewhere at 420 to 430 hours. Gentlemen, set your clocks. Here, we see an error to some extent. Not really. I made blue algae a little early, but it was close enough to the line of furnaces that I could easily devour the carbon dioxide. Therefore, blue algae is fed, and the sulfuric wastewater can be fed from the mineral sludge line as it produces SWW as a byproduct. Look at all this space I'll have to capitalize on. I have plans, which essentially involves a marker and where the wind blows, but that is how most bases go. City blocks, grids, respecting chunk blueprints, and just let the belt guide you, it knows best. Also, I cleaned up a lot of buildings. They'll come back. Probably. So, about that mass purification of water I performed, I may have gone slightly overboard. Do you think so? Personally, I think I could have gone higher. Don't let the automatic pipe placement and 320 hours fool you. I still misplace pipes because I am allergic to double checking. I am somewhat proud of this looping system. It can be made smaller, but I need better buildings. The catalyst of mineral variety, as per the name, can be used to form pure ores. Granted, pure ores need 2 ores to make the pure bit, and the catalyst, but it balances out because you get a lot of pure ore. My choice is obviously iron, the base of damn near everything. Now, around about this point, I noticed something wrong. That generation amount isn't correct. I then remember that 2 hours before, I was testing Seablock add-ons to see the limits and generally poking and prodding the mod pack with what amounted to a stick whilst on a break. In this, I discovered the productivity add-on, which gives productivity to a few buildings, mainly the crystallizer, had the nasty habit of randomly crashing the game. Nothing bad, annoying, but workable. I then couldn't boot my test world, and discovered through some convoluted means that I am entirely unsure how to replicate. That it is more than capable of bricking saves. Now, the test save itself is fine, but it gets stuck in a loop of crashing over and over, and then it worked for a few minutes, to which I tried to remove the mod, which then corrupted the save. I forgot to turn it off. Thankfully, I didn't corrupt my actual save, but I had a close shave. This is also a warning to you if you think about using mods that add productivity to the crystallizers. Be warned that you may experience something strange. I'd try to report it, but I'm pretty sure the maintainer is gone and any attempt to replicate the bug I've met with failure. Ah, the joys of modding. Heedless of poking code, this will produce roughly 24 or so iron per second. That might sound like a little, but given I've been stuck at 1 to 3 per second, it is a massive improvement. Despite that, it looks ridiculous. Crushers up, the fuel belt grows a few extra inches, some pre-processing of the iron to increase yield, and then I realize that the build is a few tiles off and it irks me so much that I stop what I'm doing and move it up. What can I say? It has to look somewhat tolerable for the time being. There we go. All fixed. You might think this is blue algae, but it is not. It is brown. How much? Oh, nothing too bad, just a smidgen. Yes, this is for the second power farm. Trees, fertilizer blue, and whatever is left over is kept on speed dial in case of emergency. Another crash. That's 2. My greed sickens me. Look at the length of this belt of mud. Oh well. Oh, would you look at that? An era of tremendous time loss. The washing plants are too close to one another, so you know what that means. I have to move it to the side. Though, through the power of movie magic, time barely passes for you. It took me like 30 minutes. Not fun, but as they say, we bowl. 81 mud per second. Oh right, I have to vent the sulfides. Would it also shock you to know that this overproduces saline water? I use about half of it for brown algae. I'm not even using it all. On today's deadlock, copper. Which is shocking, but not unsurprising. Anywho, only 27. It's balanced. 24 goes to the farms, the last 3 goes to the trees. Though this time it'll be proper wood instead of swamp trees. Rest assured, the swamp trees will make a return. I take this moment to gaze and look in wonder at the soil starting up. One of the few best feelings watching a factory come to life and just work. And then another angle as the farms rev up. If you think all of this just runs, it still needs some form of random recipe keeping everything running. If this one recipe stops producing, the entire factory crumbles. It is the singular stable foundation with which everything requires. To make a reference, source engine, coconut, PNG. Or was it JPEG? Another crash. However, a poor power pole is the victim. Diva down. I engage in some cleaning because I want to move things. Heedless of the contents, and in this I destroy the chest with which I've been stocking up on puffer eggs. I could load a save, but such grand idiocy is so hilarious that I decide to be better to live with my mistake. And so the dreaded beast awakens from slumber. Iron be its name. Now all of that is for 6 blast furnaces. Higher yield recipes, the routing is starting to take hold of me, and all I can think about is how to improve this further. Spring cleaning? I'm unsure how to quantify this properly, but disassembly occurs at intervals. Here is the iron and steel setup, by the by. We've got a whole 4 or so steel per second. Large improvement, and I'll get a whopping 6 steel per second once we construct the multi-flotation processing. Ammonia is established, as is oil processing, and another review of the space claimed and built upon. Despite what you may see as orderly, I still view as a mess. I think my brain is suffering severe damage, but what else is new? Urea for fertilizer blue, a minor detour to watch the pump switch on and off rapidly. Simply enjoy the blinking of the condition being met and then not, and then being met, and then not. I am somewhat perturbed given that the steam crackers are used twice in the oil recipe chain, but I'll cope and I'll grumble. And like that, oil for further processes. Oh, purposes, that is. Mainly research, but the residual gas is also welcome considering I need it for lubricant, and I had some research done off-screen, so now I can process said residual offal. Fertilizer blue, which I follow up with arboretums. Unfortunately, I forget the recipe and don't leave enough space for tree seeds. You know, only the most important part of growing the tree itself. You know, the tree. And like that, we still have plenty of leftover products to use. Yes, that is 192 compost. No, I forget that I can compost the compost, thereby disposing of it and having the system run in perpetuity. I fix it later. So, time passes, about 30 hours, no, I am not joking, and a lot has occurred, most of which you have previously seen or had me explain, but we are progressing to the main bus point. Here we see the double air filtration setup. You can also see the belts and how full they are. This is what the previous air scrubbing should look like. I also repaste the electrolyzers twice and make the improvement of using more belt balancers to reduce the overall belts needed. Despite this, it is still a mess. We will forget my skill issue because it totally didn't happen at all, and I always used more belt balancers. Of course, of course. Oh hey, I still have 21 charcoal left over. Very nice. It is somewhat sobering and sad that my plan of doing an optional challenge of burners only didn't pan out. See previous as to why, but I am still proud of this glorious design. I'm glad I tried. The new electrical waste of space rumbles slowly to life. Alright, the old base was great and all, but now it's time to clean up. Nostalgia is dreadful for efficiency. Goodbye, sweet prince. If you're wondering the power draw for my personal robotics, it takes about 6 to 10 minutes to fully let them recharge, and then I spend that power doing 3 minutes of work. The cycle is endless, but the work marches on. I mean, look at the space update. I still, however, am denied by the worms. I made a few of the higher tier crystallizers. They can accept modules. This is good, and also bad. Good in the increase in production. Very nice. Bad in that I have to start thinking about producing modules. Very bad. Oh boy, it's time for density considerations. I have to remember to route both physical and fluid inputs, and keep space for any number of additional buildings in this controlled mess. The second repaste is for multi-flotation, in this case, bobmonium and chrontium. And here is where I acknowledge that I make too much oxygen and hydrogen, a good problem but such a 50-50 split of good and bad, that I need to have a pump solely to help dispose of the gases. As per the ritual and seemingly consistent complaint, I despise the fluid system, and again rattle my teeth in anger at it. This is the part where I say everything works, and it does. However, I put the drawful points for the inserters or chrontium on the wrong lanes, causing issues. Regardless, everything is flowing as it should. The good thing about having purified water is that it also makes saline water, which I need for chlorine and sodium hydroxide. The SH not so much for now. This is more expensive way to get rid of saline water, better than just flare stacking it. That and another research allowed me to turn that physical hydroxide into liquid, which I can just wash away. Joyous, the factory is slowly forming. To keep it flowing, molten style, we now have a total of 24 iron plates per second and 6 steel per second. Life is a dream. Hydrogen sulfide is also getting its way in the sunlight, though I make another mistake and forget to make a used catalyst belt. This happens with a shocking amount of frequency. Wood is set up and... I messed up the lane dropping again. So many belts. Do I have left... It is time to go for pure undergrounds, it seems. You can tell I'm running low on cognitive power when I fall back into, if it fits, it'll produce. Mindset, but copper is put down and ready to go. Here we melt the ingots into liquid form. Here we are spooling together the sheets. I double check everything alongside some math that will go unmentioned. Here is some solder for green circuits, and advanced circuits whenever I get to them. Here is where I will reset up clay bricks, since they are needed for tier 2 buildings. I hate them, the less I focus on them, the better. Okay, there we go. The waste belts are made and the system will now loop endlessly. If you wanted to know what the animation is, it's strobes, and uses the same audio for the refineries. Somewhat disappointing, but it works. Now, whilst I set this grab bag list of inserters up, I thank you. Why? Because we have reached the end of this video, and that means we must bid each other adieu, or whatever the French say. Check out the link tree for the Discord server if you don't want to talk but keep up to date with the videos and the web novel. A role in there exists for you. If you do want to chat and perhaps share some Seablockage knowledge or feedback, it'll also cater to you. It's free. The rest of my creative pursuits are also within the link tree. Check out my web novel and tell me what I am going to make it big, or how I shall fumble and burn like Icarus. But even if you don't, and this is your only time here, I thank you for your patronage. And check out the Patreon as well, if you care. Singular or repeated, and I shall see you later, at a time, in some point in time. Bye-bye.